Narito ang programang totoong-totoo, Tambayan sa DWIZ. Programang magliliwanag ng ilang mahahalagang mga issue. Tambayan sa DWIZ. At ngayon, narito na sila upang maghatid ng saya sa bawat Pilipino. Sa programang Tambayan sa DWIZ.
Magandang tanghali, March 1. Unang araw ng Marso. February was Lou's birth month. Kaya parang isang buwan kami nagse-celebrate ng birthday niya. March naman yung sa amin ni Presidente Duterte. Magkasunod kami ng araw. So, it seems that we're celebrating it. Nag-iisa ako dito. May sakit po si Attorney Awesome. Wala po si Attorney Nick. At mahuhuli daw po ngayong araw na ito. Itong si Boklo. Kaya pasensya na. Nandito pala, ako pa lang muna today. So, yung mga po nakikinig po sa radyo, pwede po kayo magpadala ng mensahe that we can read on air. Our DWIZ text line is 0918-350-2378. Ulitin po natin, 0918-350-2378. Samantala naman, we are also on Facebook Live at nasa YouTube live streaming. Para dun sa nanonood sa Facebook Live, please like and share on this video. At saka para dun sa nanonood sa live streaming, please like and share as well. Nababasa po namin and we will be reading, dahil nag-iisa ako ngayon, we'll be reading a lot of your feedback. So join in on the discussions today since it's Friday. Ano ba meron tayo today? Friday is Anything Goes Friday. So let's deal with some questions. Marami kasing questions over the week. And we're going to be checking them out right now. Hang on, ha? So check natin yung live streams natin. And please don't forget to like and share. DWIZ 882. Hirap nang nag-iisa eh. Hindi ako makaporma dito sa sa booth. Okay, it's March 1. December 10 po pinatay si Red Santillan. We have no updates on the investigation as it's supposed to be ongoing. Nangako nung Pebrero ang PNP na doon sa administrative investigation on whether or not the police officers had used excessive force. Hanggang ngayon po wala pa pong report, at nangako ang PNP na by March maglalabas na rin po sila. Samantala naman, as early as January, nag-file na po ng kaso si Attorney Glenn Chong with the Office of the Ombudsman, at iniintay pa rin po natin ang resulta nun. Ang pwede natin madaliin dahil nagbigay ng deadline ay ang PNP. March 1 nga na ngayon. So nasaan na po ang report natin? Of course, we take exception with the fact that hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin inaamin ng police that they did anything wrong. Ang only admission nila is an investigation into whether or not excessive force was used. Pero whether or not nagkamali po sila dito sa biktima nila, they will not make an admission to that one. Bakit? Samantala namang maliwanag dun sa mga police reports nila that they did not know who was in the car at the time. As a matter of fact, based on the spot report at yung subsequent statements ng PNP, maliwanag po that they were after only the car. So, assuming na totoo ang sinasabi ng PNP with regard to them not knowing who was inside the car, then this was a case of mistaken identity. They try not to play that up, no? Sinasabi nila, anyway, kasangkot naman si Red Santillan at saka yung kasama niya, si Jessamine Casing, in the syndicate called the Highway Boys. Kakaiba din ang mga nangyayari dito. But may oras tayo to call out the PNP. Marso na, nasa na yung investigation ninyo. The only investigation that you're doing is on the use of excessive force. At in this case, the excessive force is the fact that supposedly, according to the spot report, there was an exchange of gunfire, but the video that was uploaded on Facebook does not indicate anything like that. As a matter of fact, pati yung affidavit supposedly ng Grab driver who was in the vicinity was not an eyewitness. All he heard was several shots that were being fired. So hanggang ngayon wala pa pong ebidensya as to whether or not there was an actual shootout. Pero ang investigation ng PNP is still with regard to the whether or not excessive force was used. Ano na nangyayari dun sa mga police? None of them, as far as we are concerned, or none of them have been reported to have been dismissed kasi nga the only investigation is on excessive force. So, kahit may namatay dito, hindi inimbestigan as to whether or not there was a valid reason for that shootout to begin with. The excessive force is only collateral to the issue of whether or not this was a valid operation as far as the PNP is concerned. Valid operation. Now, in early January, nagsabi ang Pangulo, impartial investigation, so obviously the PNP is not doing that. The NBI was supposed to be doing an investigation, pero during the Senate investigation on killings, political killings, nagsabi ang NBI na walang fina-forward ang PNP na document. So that's another thing we need to follow up on. Lahat ng mga ebidensya was supposed to be turned over by the PNP to the NBI to conduct the impartial investigation na sinasabi ng ating Pangulo. However, wala tayong nababalita as to whether or not this was actually accomplished. So kamusta na PNP? NBI, wala bang statements, at the start of this investigation, maraming nagsasalita sa PNP. Ngayon, surprisingly, it's very, very quiet after the Senate investigation. So, in fact, we still have more questions than we have answers at this point. And in the meantime, tuloy pa rin ang kampanya ni Attorney Glenn Chong. He has not forgotten this case. He continues to update us via his Facebook account. Sabi ni Grace Bermudez for the Luces, wala man lang Senate hearing about that case. Oo, kasi yung last Senate hearing was really about political killings and was not related solely to the Red Santillan case. They did devote a lot of time with the PNP giving a lot of time to explaining yung nangyari sa kanila, with a lot of time also being devoted to the the autopsy supposedly conducted by the PNP and how it compares with the forensic examination conducted by Dr. Erwin Erfe, but not enough time given to Attorney Glenn Chong or to the public attorney's office to refute any of those claims. Plus, they had to hear on the other cases of political killings. Several other mayors and local government officials have also been killed during this election season, including the pre-campaign season, stretching all the way to a year ago. So, hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin din tayo. So, super dead mga Tinatanong ni Brendisi Egot, ano po ang reaction sa drama ni Chrissy? Okay, for those na nakikinig sa radyo, si Chris Aquino, went on live again sa social media to denounce a joke supposedly during a skit on a campaign stump by candidate Bongo in tandem with Chris's ex, Philip Salvador. Huwag na natin puntahan yung actually, ang nasabi is ni Mr. Go is that buti ka pa, something to the effect na nakauna ka kay Chris. So, Chris goes on live primarily lambasting the joke supposedly done at her expense. Tapos, nagagalit din siya dito kay Philip Salvador for supposedly pinapabayaan daw kasi yung kanilang anak na si Josh. Anong react? Well, it didn't gain as much traction as it did the last time. And we know that Miss Aquino normally goes public because, usually for two reasons. It's possible that she really wants to be heard regarding this, but we also know na yung mga dati niyang mga live or public pronouncements, statements, whether made in traditional media or social media, have been calculated to keep her in the public eye. Keeping her in the public eye translates into endorsements. Endorsements translates into income. So, yung reaction ko, there's no reason for us to think that Miss Aquino has changed her ways. Ganun na lang po natin iiwan yan. Sabi ni Eric ang Dueco, the world does not revolve around you, Chris. Well, I don't know if we can convince her of that. Sabi ni Mr. Hill Banyares, Jesus, gusto ni Chris yan para mapansin. Well, she's going to get that anyway. But it's best that we be objective about it. And right now, ang tingin din ng mga tao dito sa sa latest drama nga ni Chris, as you had put it, is that it's really it's more of the same. Kumbaga, walang pinagbago. She's coming off from a loss. 2 cases have been dismissed by the prosecutorial service doon sa mga kaso na final niya against Nico Falcius. And public opinion on social media is generally against her. She still retains a lot of fans. She's still very popular. Although I don't know if the word popular would be applicable, would be entirely appropriate. Tingin pa ako ng mga questions ninyo. Hindi ko pa nakikita yung nasa YouTube. Magtanong na lang po kayo. And please don't forget to like and share, ha? Kukunti pa lang shares na nakikita ko sa Facebook. So let's get to it, guys. Sabi ng Pangulo natin, give credit to the people. He was talking about yung mga government projects na hindi dapat give credit to the people, the builders and partners, hindi daw yung mga government officials with regard to project. I suppose the President was reacting to itong mga kaipala ng ibang mga politiko natin na tuwing merong project brought to you courtesy of Congressman so-and-so, Mayor so-and-so, Councilor so-and-so, etc., etc. Alam niya naman ng Pangulo natin, he's very humble, he's very low-key about the things that he does. Nevertheless, nakakabahala, to use phrase na inagaw sa akin ni Lenny Robredo. I'm exaggerating in that sarcasm. Matagal ko nang ginagamit yung term na nababahala, pero nang ginamit na ni VP Lenny, I had to cut back on it. Anyway, the point here is that lumilipas na po yung panahon ng kaipala ng ating mga politiko. Naging practice ito na kiniklaim ng mga politicians natin ng mga government projects, pero ang sinasabi ng Pangulo natin, these are funded by taxpayers' money. So, given na, funded by our own money, the credit should go to those people who actually own the project, which is the people of the Philippines. He was also targeting the political commentators, aray, and politicians to mention certain government projects when they talk. Well, I don't think any commentator actually takes any credit for this. Pero the fact na lalaganap yung practice na ganito is not healthy for the Philippine political situation. Also, politicians, part of their work is to make sure that these infrastructures, particularly infrastructure projects, are executed. So, hindi lang ito yung kumbaga, they're there to facilitate the project. But it doesn't belong to them and there's no credit that can be taken from that one. Bakit nagkaroon ng ganitong practice? Well, during we had a 20-year period when Marcos was the only president, di ba? So, siya lang yung pangulo natin. And may certain stability dun sa leadership. Walang term limits. So, minsan may mga mayors tayo na umaabot na. One in particular, the longest serving mayor that we know, almost 30 years, was Governor San Luis in Laguna. So, may stability dun sa political leadership. So, there was no reason to claim that this or that project was a result of these people. It was almost a given. Ngayon, nung na-introduce yung mga term limits natin, nagkaroon ngayon ng need to, dahil laban yan di ba? Every 3 years, especially at the local level, kailangan paalala nung incumbent yung mga nagawa nila. So, kami naglagay nitong sidewalk, kami naglagay nitong whatever. But we also had a thing for tangible development. So, since the Marcoses were in power for so long, there's a lot of infrastructure then. There's, of course, the Imelda projects, the CCP, the Folk Arts Theater, the Convention Center, etc. Highways that were extended or built during the Marcos era. It was easy to point them out. Ngayon, nung panahon na presidente si Cory, there were very, very few infrastructure projects. Mostly, ang dahilan na sinasabi nila sa atin ay dahil walang pera para dito. Pero dahil walang ang pera, at the last minute, nagkaroon ng, nagka-worry sila about the fact that there was no tangible development na maipapakita dun sa taong bayan. Mag-i-eleksyon. So, they needed something to show. Nagkaroon tuloy tayo ng mga flyovers. This was one of the answers that they had for yung traffic situation. So, nun pa lang alam natin na hindi nalutas ang problema ng trapiko, lalong-lalo na sa EDSA. But, they needed something to show. So, this was a lesson that they learned. Ibig sabihin, hindi na naging enough after 6 years of Cory Aquino as president. Hindi na naging enough na para sabihin na may achievement naman kami. We returned democracy to the Philippines. Hindi, since it was not enough, it was also reflective of yung level of education ng ating mga botante. Hindi nakikita, hindi nahahawakan, hindi nagagamit yung supposed achievements ng Cory Aquino years. Therefore, walang achievement. That was how it was translated at the time. Or at least yun yung rule of thumb or yung pinaniniwalaan ng ating mga politiko at the time. Ano nangyari? In the subsequent administrations, this became now necessary. So, every so often, ang ating mga local government officials, pinaka-guilty on this one, tinatatakan nila ng pangalan nila lahat ng infrastructure projects or lahat ng construction projects. Some to a very extreme degree, di ba? Meron tayong mga nakikita mga sidewalks na nakatatak yung initials ng mayor. Nauso din tuloy yung mga chipipay projects, sorry for the term, mga chipipay projects basta ginagamit ang konkreto. So, makakakita kayo ng planter boxes na inappropriately placed. Halimbawa, nakaharang sa mga sidewalks natin. And nasisira after so many years lang. 2 or 3 years. At namamatay din, hindi na maintain yung mga halaman. And so, nagiging parang cosmetic lang basta matatakan ng initials ng mga local government officials responsible for that project. Bakit? Nakikita, therefore, parang merong ginawa. So, now that we have a new president and medyo chaotic dahil ganun yung mga projects, maraming pera na naaaksaya. So, nakakakita kayo ng mga waiting shed na nakaharang dun sa ating mga sidewalks. Waiting shed na hindi mo naman pwedeng gamitin kasi bawal tumigil dun yung mga sasakyan, ang public transportation. But these are easy projects na tinatatakan ng mga pangalan, and it becomes a continuous campaign. Nakikita para ka nang naglagay ng campaign poster dyan for 3 years. Tapos pag magigiba uli, maglalaan na naman ng pera para dito sa proyekto na to. And you know that in some instances, well, maybe not just some, in many instances, nagiging source of graft. Dahil nga, yung rule of thumb nga namin dati, basta may konkreto, may lagay. So, yung mga ganitong projects that really don't help development, nakakasagabal pa in some cases, but are actually used to continuously campaign for candidates, became one of the unwanted results of term limits. Dun sa mga naghahanap kay Drew, padating daw siya. He told me that he's going to be late. So I really hope na hindi ito solo flight. Pero maraming salamat po para dun sa mga ninyo. Sa mga comments ninyo kasi wala nga akong I need the feedback as to kung na-gets na yung... Sa mga comments ninyo kasi wala nga akong Ayan, sorry. Looking at the comments now from our YouTube. Sabi ni Raymond Toledo, the Marcos administration had the most number of infrastructure projects. It was the total opposite for the Aquino administration, which rushed the flyover project in EDSA. That's true. However, you have to give some credit because the Marcos administration was 20 years. So, dapat lang marami rin silang projects. Sabi ni Manuel Cartagena, bakit wala akong nakikitang claim about the toilet na walang divisions and so much budget set out for it? That's actually a good point, di ba? Well, supposedly hindi pa tapos, so hindi pa natatakan ng pangalan. Which is, I hope that they do that. Inabati po natin si Jennifer Torres ng Bulacan. She's watching over YouTube. So, yung mga nanonood sa YouTube, please don't forget to like and share. Sabi ni Joseph De La Cruz, comment naman po about Singapore versus Facebook. Not sure about the Singapore versus Facebook issue yet. Tinatapos ko pang aralin kasi we've been doing some research into the how do you call this, violation or Facebook's lack of neutrality. Marami na tayong reports from foreign sources na kailang beses na that Facebook has been throttling and in fact merong takedowns of certain pages or removal of certain accounts based on political affiliation, or because a complaint had been made by a particular political party. Significant po sa atin yan because di umano at wala pang confirmation ito, meron na ilang Facebook accounts who have been saying that Maria Ressa has been spotted in Singapore supposedly to complain with Facebook, which yung kanilang office in this region is in Singapore. So we'll make a report on that as soon as we're done doing all of our readings. Okay, tinatanong ni Ging Liwanag, dapat ba talaga COMELEC mag-set ng debate between Ocho and Hugpong? Okay, ganito yan. There's no law requiring a debate. But empowered po ang COMELEC to set up a debate, the precedent having been set during the last presidential election. COMELEC po ang nag-arrange ng debate po na yun with the presidential candidates because there were so many of them. The COMELEC is empowered to do that. They are not required to do that. Debates are not required. That is why yung Ocho had to go and ask, they petitioned the COMELEC to arrange for a debate between them and Hugpong. So, sabi ni Sara Duterte, who is the political chief of the Hugpong ng Pagbabago, she's saying that, well, then we leave it to the COMELEC. Diba? Which is actually a good idea. Dun sa ako personally, kung tatandaan po natin yung ERAP years, during the time that ERAP was running for president, hindi siya nakipagdebate. Why? Because he was leading by a landscape, and which he actually won by a landslide. Then he didn't feel the need to do that. One, yung constituency niya, hindi naman nanonood ng debate yan eh. Or even if they did, it would not have made a difference. Second, he did not want to give the advantage to his political rivals, di ba? So pwede naman tumanggi. Actually, there's no compulsion. In fact, the COMELEC cannot subpoena the senatorial candidates and require them to be present at a debate. You can still actually say no. But the common belief that Ocho is doing this for mileage still holds true. Kasi otherwise, wala silang platform eh. People are not going to their rallies. Sabi nila magdo-door to door sila, but obviously I don't think that they believe that that's viable. Furthermore, but they need the audience that Hugpong will bring. Malay nyo feeling yata nila kahit paano makapunto sila, meron silang audience, meron silang katunggali. However, ang tingin ko rin, and to be purely objective about this, ang Ocho, alam din nila na strength nila dahil matatas sila, or at least that's what they think. I wouldn't say na lahat ng Ocho magaling. Siguro si Jokno to some extent, yes, kasi sanay. Not very sure about Hilbay. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's bad at this. Mar Rojas has a lot of mistakes already, and lalo na si Bam. Nabatikos din ng bonggang-bongga si Madam Gutok, and of course Lomi Mac has a tendency to run off a lot. Sanay, old school, ganun talaga yung old school. Sanay na maraming salita, ako konting sinasabi. Still, even with all of these, how do you call this, semi-weaknesses, para dun sa Ocho, and we're even counting Gary Alejano, who I'm not very sure is very articulate. He's more articulate than Sonny Trillanes, I'll give him that. Pero, ang tingin ng Ocho, ito yung strength nila, at sa tingin nila, if they come to a debate, mananalo sila, or they have the distinct advantage. I'm not sure that's true. I think meron silang mga specific targets doon sa Hugpong, which is why hindi po nila niyayaya people like Attorney Glenn Chong. Diba? Hindi nila china-challenge si Attorney Larry Gadon. They're after people who are not articulate. So, alam na natin yan kung sino sa Hugpong. In particular, people who have to keep apologizing for what they say. Yung mga ganyan, hindi sila talaga, they will not do well in a debate type format. But, like I said, there's nothing that will compel them to go to a debate type format. If there are issues, ang sinasabi ng Ocho, may mga issues na dapat tayo maliwanagan. Oh, well, then we can get the Hugpong to issue statements. Or they can deadman certain issues. The point here is you can't compel them to do anything. Ganito yan eh. Ang ginagawa ng Ocho, nagka-create sila ng paradigm, nagka-create sila ng parang playground nila, tapos magyayaya sila where they have the distinct home court advantage. At least, Yun ang tingin nila. I disagree, pero yun ang tingin nila. And they think it's going to be an easy victory. But look at what they're doing. They're putting all their energy into this debate. Diba? Para sa kanila, lahat ng efforts nila. Sipin mo, ilan silang pumunta sa COMELEC. Imbis na nasa labas sila, nangangampanya at door to door, nag-hold ng maliliit na mini rallies kasi yun lang ang kaya nila, hindi large rallies. Nagpupunta sila sa COMELEC. That's precious campaign time that they're spending on this one, which means it seems to be very, very important to them. So if I were Hugpong, importante pala yan sa inyo, Tedma. Not going to go there. Why should I? Why should I hand it over to you what you want on a silver platter when we're doing very well just the way we are right now? Babalik ang tambayan. Oras natin, 12:30 ng tanghali.
Tambayan sa DWIZ.
Babalik ang tambayan. Wala pa rin si Bokla. So, baka nahihirapan siyang makadating. May bagong balita ayon sa Manila Regional Trial Court, Branch 46. Na-postpone yung arraignment ni Maria Ressa, Rappler Chief Executive Officer, kasi nag-file ng motion to quash yung mga abogado niya para i-dismiss di umano ang cyber libel case na final sa kanya ni Mr. King. Okay? Kung tatandaan po natin, anong ibig sabihin ng motion to quash? Ibig sabihin, sinasabi ng mga lawyers ni Maria Ressa na yung impormasyon, which is the charge against her, ay possibly does not constitute a crime. So, babalik sila dun sa kanilang depensa na tapos na or nag-prescribe na and therefore hindi na po siya crime. So, what are they doing? They're going to put at issue before the court itong whether or not pwede pa siyang kasuhan ngayon. Bakit ginagawa nila ito before arraignment? Well, kasi pwedeng pag sinabi ng judge, you can make it part of your defense na lang, tutuloy-tuloy yung kaso. So they want this dismissed at the earliest time. So, tignan natin, ibig sabihin, hindi pa po nababasahan ng charge si Maria Ressa at hindi pa po siya nakakapag-plead ng guilty or not guilty, although we expect her to plead not guilty. So, yun lang po ang latest development doon sa kaso na yon. Nagpapabati po si Tina at saka yung kaibigan niyang si Mel. They're from Tokyo, Japan. Wait. Marami yatang nakikinig sa atin from Japan. Binabati ko po kayo dahil madalas I get a lot of feedback from you guys. Thank you very much. Isa pa, binvinito ng ating Pangulo yung anti-palo bill. Sabi ni Executive Secretary Medialdea, gusto daw kasi ng Pangulo for the parents to retain authority over their children, lalo na pagdating sa pagdidisiplina. I think I agree with the President on this one. You cannot legislate how to be a good parent. Diba? So, ang ginagawa lang is nire-restrict mo in the use of certain disciplining measures na mahirap pagka the state intervenes dun sa relasyon ng isang magulang sa kanyang anak, ng mga magulang sa kanilang anak. Nakikita po natin kasi in some instances dun sa US, nagkakaroon ng mas lalong nasa-strain yung relationship ng parents pag sa tingin ng bata, pag dinadala, ng bata ang third party doon sa kanilang alitan. So, ang dalawang prinsipyo dito is, do we empower children given na wala pa silang discernment? So, nakikita din natin na consistent yung Pangulo pagdating dito. Kung wala pang discernment, consistent sa existing laws, without yung minimum, yung lowering of the age of criminal responsibility. Pero magkakatugma-tugma yan, sangay-sangay yan ng iisang issue. Pag sinabi natin na ang isang bata or somebody below the age of 18, kasi nilalagay natin ang age of majority at either 18 or 21 depending on certain laws. Pero for purposes of contracts other than a marriage contract, 18 siya. So what we're saying is wala pang capacity to make certain choices. So for instance, pagka minority rin, automatically there's no death penalty because you mitigate it one level down. We also say na yung bata, kaya nga pinoprotektahan yan ng Estado. Kaya nga merong parental authority over the child. Sinasubstitute yung discernment, yung decision making ng bata, ng minor child, for yung parent ang gumagawa ng decision para dun sa bata. Substituted yan. Ibig sabihin, yung parent habang hindi pa capacitated yung bata, yan ang gagawa ng desisyon. Ganun din po, pag nasa school, meron tinatawag tayong substituted parental authority. And this is possible because nga, hindi natin kinoconsider na capable yung bata of making informed decisions the way an adult would be able to make it. Kaya nga malaki yung debate doon sa lowering of the age of criminal responsibility. Pero, because the authority to make that decision is also the authority to raise the child. Kasi nga, absolute ang authority ng parent over the child, his property, and consequently, yung parent, siya din mananagot kapag may damage na nagawa yung kanilang anak. So, consistent yung batas natin. Incapable of making decisions, therefore the parent makes that decision, therefore the parent has authority over the child. That authority is is absolute. Where are the exceptions? Pag mayroong physical injuries, nandyan yan sa revised penal code. So, kung magkaroon ng injury yung bata, it's regardless of this anti-palo law. Kumbaga, the law already works there. Masaktan mo yung bata, pwede kang ihabla. Ngayon, who's going to make that decision? The state now can intervene. Pupunta ko na rin yung bata sa women's desk. Even if he's below the age of discernment, even if he or she is a minor, pwede niyang ireklamo yung magulang or somebody else can make that complaint for the child because the state can now intervene. Hindi nagbago yan. Nandiyan pa rin yung revised penal code. So bakit kailangan yung anti-palo law? When the anti-palo law, sorry for the term, medyo social masyado, the anti-palo law actually intervenes nga and restricts the parent and substitutes the state's discretion over the parent's discretion on how to discipline the child. Medyo. Sabi ni Ligaya, Kalapini Uwaing, yung anti-palo ni Hontiveros ay parang tinatanggalan na ng karapatan ang mga magulang na magdisiplina ng anak. Hindi rin ako pabor dito. Tama. We're not saying that parents are allowed to hurt children kasi nga meron pa rin tayong revised penal code, di ba? Pero in fact, develop na tayo because meron din mga anti-child abuse laws. So, ang tanong dito is why do we have to be very, very specific about yung disciplinary measures over a child? Dapat may discretion na ang magulang niyan. Anyway, kung masaktan yung bata, may physical injuries, even if it is just slight physical injuries, they still have recourse to the law. Ang tingin ko dito, kaya meron ganitong isang purpose ng anti-palo bill, ay para paalala dun sa mga law enforcement agencies natin na kahit may relasyon, kahit bata yan at magulang yung nanakit dun sa bata, ay meron pa ring consequent penalty yun. Okay. checking now dun sa Facebook. Sabi ni Flor Delis Espadilla, ang galing talaga ng Pangulong Digong. Magaling talaga siyang prosecutor. Mahusay siyang magdesisyon at dumiskarte. Buti na lang na veto yung anti-palo law. Dadami palalo ang kriminal sa mundo. Huwag lang sobrang palo o bugbog na ang gagawing disiplina o bugbog na ang gagawin. Disiplina lang ang kailangan. Correct. Correct. We're again, inuulit natin, paulit-ulit. There's a difference between discipline and abuse. There's a difference between yung palo that's supposed to render that kind of discipline at yung palo na nagiging physical injuries na under the revised penal code. Daming batikos ngayon dito sa kay Risa Hontiveros because of this anti-palo bill. Ang concern ko rin dito is parang lumalabas, maraming naipasa na batas itong si Senator Risa kasi kanya din yung mental health law which hindi pa natin nakikita yung effects. Kanya din itong so meron siyang mga nakikita mo yung mga tendency niya to yung mga liberalist tendencies niya. Sabi ni John Edlosolo, and I think this is a good point, Senior, family planning is the key. Correct. May mga pressures kasi na nararamdaman ang magulang, and this usually, ito yung nagiging sanhi ng subsequent abuses. Aside, of course, from the possibility that the parents have some psychological problem. Yung mga child abuse cases are marami ang result yan of many different factors. One of them are pressures on the parents. The other is may sakit, may mental na sakit yung magulang. And what is the other source of abuse? Well, poverty. Diba? Nagiging acceptable. To some people, may theory that poverty is the biggest violence there is. And that is true. So, because of the lack of choices, yun talaga yung definition ng poverty. It's not the lack of money, but the lack of choices. And money brings you a lot of choices. Kumbaga, pagka mahirap ka, you don't have much choice. You go to public school, but that's a choice only if you can afford it. Kasi there's some people, libre na nga yung public school or tertiary education, they still can't afford the attendant costs for that. So, but poverty being the biggest form of violence that there is, begets more violence. So, ang highest number of cases of child abuse really occur in the depressed areas, which doesn't mean to say na dun sa mga areas na mataas ang economic status ng magulang ay hindi ito nangyayari because this comes with its own separate set of pressures. Sabi ni Gina Mescaliado, importanteng disiplina from parents because they are the authority na ma-experience ng bata even before going to school. And even while in school ay wala naman masyadong involvement ng teacher sa pagdiscipline dahil sa ibang tasks. Sa ibang bansa na tinatanggalan ng ganyang role ang parents ay lumalaking sobrang walang respeto for authority ang mga bata. I agree. Yun na nga. In some instances, doon na nga sa US, tumataas yung amount of delinquency. But we really need to be able to isolate the factors for that one. Sabi ni Rin Ortiz, and I agree with this one, ang mahirap sa ibang mambabatas, masyadong bilib sa mga batas ng ibang bansa. Hindi mo na nila inaalam o magtanong man lang sa ating mga kababayan kung anong batas ang makakatulong sa atin. Kung pumayag si tatay sa gusto ni Hontiveros, magagaya ang ating mga anak, kapatid, pamangkin, apo sa mga bata gaya ng Amerika. Dito sa Vancouver, maraming mga abusadong mga bata sa mga nakakatanda kasi di napalaki ng maayos. karamihan mga Asians lang talaga may takot sa mga nakakatanda. So it's also possibly a cultural thing, ano? Busy yung Pangulo natin lately, di ba? So, you notice na he has become extremely involved in a lot of our public policies. Ngayon, si VP Robredo naman, sabi niya, she acknowledges how difficult it is to campaign without enough funds and manpower. So, she underscored the need to level the playing field for rich and less moneyed candidates during the campaign period. Am I the only one who sees something wrong with her statement? Alam niyo kung bakit? Kasi it opens up a whole can of worms. Bakit? Ang Aquino administration, as far as popular belief goes, ay maraming infrastructure projects ang nabinbin because they were raising money for the next elections. So when we talk about rich or moneyed candidates, what do we mean by that? Kasi sometimes it's the party that raises the money. So in the last presidential elections, sino ba yung richest na party dyan? I'll give you a hint. May kulay dilaw yung kanilang campaign materials. Sino ang konti ang campaign funds? I'll give you a hint. Nanalo siya. Diba? And in many instances, tinanggihan ng current president ang ilang mga campaign contributors. Leveling the playing field. It sounds medyo hypocritical coming from the person who benefited from the most amount of campaign funds in the 2016 elections. Ngayon, umaangal kayo about the lack of campaign funds because one, you're out of power and you have no access to public funds, illegal or legal. And two, you're out of power and nobody thinks that any of your candidates are going to win. Entonces, wala kayong contributors ngayon. Of course, why would anybody want to contribute to the campaign of the Ocho when they don't look like they have when they look like they don't have a snowball's chance in hell? Nag-announce tuloy sila for several fundraising activities. In fact, nag-publish sila na they are accepting donations for their volunteer, and I use the term loosely, for their volunteers for this coming elections and for their volunteers during the campaign. Of course, it sounds like a contradiction in terms, di ba? Volunteers, tapos humingi kayo ng funding. Kakaiba rin kayo. Sabi ni Unique po, siguro ni minsan hindi napalo na pagalitan ng magulang niya yan si Ontiveros. We're still there. Okay. Sabi ni Menrado Doruelo, VP Lenny is the highest spending ng campaign niya. I seem to remember this. And late pa sila nag-submit ng kanyang statements of contributions and expenses. Diba? So, nila late na. Buti tinanggap pa ng COMELEC at doon ako nanggagalaiti. Why did they get all that extra time to file their SOSE? And why is there no penalty on the party that submitted a SOSE very late? So, indicative ito. They're raising funds. Parang sinasabi nila wala silang pera and nobody wants to give them any. I wouldn't want to give them any. Sabi ni Alvin Alquinto, of course, unprintable, yung 8-8 ngayon humihingi ng funding pero kapag nakapwesto na, puros pag nakaw sa kaba ng bayan ang ginagawa. Di umano, I suppose. Sabi ni Yu-chan, magbenta ng lugaw na lang sila gaya ng ginagawa. Di umano ni VP para makalikom ng pondo. Bumenta na kasi yung gimmick na yon eh. Hindi nga nila ma-explain kung paano sila naka-raise ng ilang milyon on the sale of lugaw alone. Sabi ni Justin Myers, bakit di nagbenta ng lugaw? So, naulit yun. I'm looking for the comment that said, nawala na yung mga drug lords na financiers nila. Of course, that's a theory, ha? We'll emphasize that. Sabi ni Zenaida Walton, di kaya way lang yan ng 8 diretso para itago ang funds coming from illegal sources. Well, there's a good point. Kasi nga, diba, if your sources are illegal, you cannot declare them, you cannot claim them on your sources, so you do fundraising, parang yung money laundering. Paraan din, Sabi ni Annie Gatchalian Agni, bakit si Chris Aquino ayaw na mag-donate for them? O kano? Maraming financial problems si Miss Chris ngayon, kaya nga nag-live eh. Sabi ni Katlea Wener, sana ang COMELEC maging patas at magtrabaho ng maayos. Maraming kailangan natin sa electoral reform. So I have to correct myself. Earlier this morning, sabi ko, only Attorney Glenn Chong has electoral reform in his campaign platform. Toti Casino din po pala ay isang nag-advocate doon sa electoral reform na tumatakbo na senador dito sa susunod na eleksyon. Sabi ni Sheila May, loko rin pala ang Aquino administration, mambibitin ng mga proyekto, nag-increase pa ng pamasahe ng MRT at ibang bilihin, tapos walang maipakita, kaya natatalo sila sa eleksyon. Almazan, it takes 0 pesos to be a decent human being. I like that. Maraming salamat dun sa lahat ng nagpadala ng mga komento ninyo and for para sa pagsasama sa akin. Tumambay dito sa tambayan. Hindi po nakahabol si Boklo, wala rin si Attorney Nick at may sakit po si Attorney Awesome. Kaya maraming salamat. I'm fully indebted with you. It's a Friday today, so kalma lang, Biyernes na. Tambayan will be back next week, same time, at hopefully kumpleto na kami, at least by Tuesday. Ang hirap ang tabayanan ng susunod on behalf of Boklo, Attorney Awesome, Attorney Nick, ako po si Trixie Cruz Angles, thanking you for staying with me today and for all the wonderful input ng ating mga matatalinong mga katambay on this day. Tabayanan ng susunod na programa In the Heart of Business with Ron Merck and Miss Maru Pahati Sarne. See you next week.
Tambayang sa DWIZ.